Mm, 10 years old. So, but okay. So let me turn this. Okay. So we have to remember. We have to remember that when we give, and I want y'all to notice something. Notice when we get to verse 6 what Paul says. But this I say, he who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. He who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. So he gives us that, wants us to put that agricultural term and think of it in terms of agriculture. But here's this. Notice how Paul lays out how we ought to give. He says, notice he says, the first thing we need to do is what? Purpose. That's right. Thank you, Laverne. Purpose in our heart. That, like Laverne said, decide in our heart. Listen, giving should not, listen, when you give, it should be a thought out, purposeful, and purposed thing. Your giving ought to be. It ought not be, listen, and I know a lot of people do this and have done this. We should never give to God what we have left after we done gave to everybody else. You shouldn't. That's not purpose giving. That is giving what I got left. But y'all know that a lot of people think that way and do that. Put that into practice. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I mean, I have too. Yeah. And a lot of people still do that. After I pay all my bills and do whatever, then what I have left. And many times their giving is not purpose. Once the plate comes around, or like here, once we say it's time for offering, let me see what I got. Rather than when you come to the house of the Lord, it should have already been purposed in your heart what you're going to give. This is for the Lord. It should already be purposed in your heart. So notice as Paul is teaching them to first purpose, then give. Purpose, and then give. You know, it's much the same way how someone, and if you don't purpose in your heart, it's like we talked about. We should give as God has prospered us. That's why you can have somebody that has gotten 20 raises at their job, but they're still giving what they gave when they started there. Because they're not purposing when they give. Because if you purpose, you're going to say, wait a minute, God has increased me here, then I need to give as God has prospered me. Okay? And so Paul is teaching that. So that's the first thing he teaches us is we got a purpose first. So anytime you give, giving should never be a haphazard thing. It should never be just off the whim. When you come to the house of the Lord, it ought to already be purposed in your heart. What you're going to give. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. 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 Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I can, yeah, I mean, I can understand that and to see that. Yeah. Y'all know, I can remember as a little boy, on Saturdays or Sunday morning before we, we, we came to church. Sometimes, you know, we would get up early and before we would come. What'd you say, Thelma? Yes, yes. Did y'all hear what she said? So I'll tell y'all what. So my daddy, many times, either on Saturday night or early Sunday morning before we got, dressed for church and go out, he would go to the store to get his change so that he could give what he was going to give. And, of course, we loved that on Sunday mornings because he would take us with us, and it meant you probably were going to get something because he needed to break the 20 or break whatever. And so, you get to get some bubble gum or something so that he could break it. But then sometimes, I guess, when times were tight, that's when he would say, no, don't go in here asking for nothing because we're not getting nothing. And he would just get change. But, yeah, he would prepare, and that's what would be, maybe that's what he thought. And that's why he did, because I don't ever remember him saying, give me back this or break that. Yeah, and that's part of purpose. And, yeah. And let me say this, y'all, because I remember this, a member asked me this, because another member, and actually some other people had told her this, that giving her offerings, her tithes and offerings through Givelify was not the same because she wasn't bringing it. Yeah. Yeah. Now to me, that's Pharisaic. That's they told her because she gave through Givelify and she was very dutiful and about on payday. And she told me, I do it on payday because I don't want it to get away. See, that was purpose to giving. She had purposed that. And so on her payday, once it hit her account, she did her Givelify. If it was a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it didn't matter. She did it. And someone told her that wasn't the same because it said bring your tithes and offering to the storehouse. Yeah. No, it didn't, because she came straight to me. She came straight to me and said that, And I wondered, and it was actually during COVID, so we weren't even in here. Yeah. And so I wondered if that was, because she didn't tell me who said it, but I wondered if that was somebody who was using that as an excuse. And then my question is, well, I know it didn't because I never saw this. Was that person saving all theirs up to the time, and then when we was able to come back in, yeah, and I don't remember that. So I know that person didn't do that because there was no windfalls when we first came back in here. So saving his up. If he did that, right. If he did that, fine. And that's fine. That's understandable. The only thing about that would be that, like I explained to you all the time, bills don't say. When we were not in here for COVID, we got a light bill every month. We got a light bill every month. And what was blowing our minds was the amount of it. And we were only in here on Tuesdays, and it was just a few. It was musicians, the praise team, and me. And we would only be in here a couple of hours at the most. But every month, we got a power bill. And a lot of us, there were actually churches all over who were kind of saying, we don't understand that, how our power bills kind of remain the same, or they didn't go way down, and we're not even in there. But we had, I believe that was those power companies saying, well, look, we still got to make money. And churches are a big consumer for them. Like I told y'all before, our power bill way bigger than yours at home. Way bigger. And think about it, you in your house every day. We're not here every day. But a church's power bill is way, way bigger. So if that guy did that, then kudos to him. He's very disciplined. He's very disciplined. But if he just said he was going to do that. Now, the thing I would tell him is the same thing I told that member. God gave us Givelify and gave us electronic ways for people to give because, right. And it may be a security thing for him. It might be. Like my brother. My brother is don't trust nobody. He is, hey man, can I Zelle you that? Man, Zelle is no, just give it to me when you get it. So he might be one of those who don't trust. Yeah, he may not trust, you know. But the point I'm making in all of that is this: you can purpose in your heart, and that member was a perfect example of somebody, and I commended her because that takes discipline. You've purposed in your heart, I'm not going to let my bills or anything else that happens during that week interfere with what's God's. As soon as my check hit the bank, and you could tell, because like I said, sometime it'll come in on a Monday, sometime it'll come in on a Wednesday, sometime it'll come in on a Friday. You could tell that she was doing it in relation with her paydays. Or she was doing it in relation with her paydays. So that's purposed giving. So that's what Paul was talking about, purposing in your heart first. You got to say to yourself, no matter what comes, on Friday when that hits my account, X amount belongs to God. So no matter what happens, that belongs to God. It's his. And that's purposing in your heart. So you purpose first, then you give. Giving should never be an afterthought. Should never be an afterthought. Even if, because sometimes you'll go, and sometimes God will lay on your heart, give a sacrificial offering. Even that should be purpose. You may not purpose the amount, but the purpose in your heart is, okay, this is what I got. This is what I'm going to give as my sacrifice to God. Long as, yeah, yeah, yeah. Long, don't do like some people would say, well, Thursday closer to this Sunday, so I forget about last Sunday. I'll just do it this Thursday, and that's for this coming up Sunday. So they're right, partially. Whatever you give, the church does not get all of that. There is a fee that we have to pay to Givelify for processing the payment for us. It's not a lot. It's 2.9% plus 30 cents. That's what we have to pay to Givelify. What you laughing at, Radita? That I got it down? That I got that down? Oh, at the tax commissioner? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right, right. And so, yeah, you're right. Do you know that there are certain stores doing that now? Uh-huh. Now, most of them, and here's what we were talking about the other night in our meeting. Actually, when you go to Walmart or you go to Kroger, you go to a grocery store, whatever, they may not charge you that fee. You may not see 2% for using a debit card especially at a large chain grocery store or Walmart. But they getting it. You're not giving it when you use your card, but you're giving it when you buy that gallon of milk. They getting it back. When you buy that loaf of bread, that is put into them prices. So they getting it back. They just not putting it in your face. They're just not putting it in your face. Oh yeah, yeah. They're gonna make it up because here's why. And I'll tell you why. We started doing that, and that's right, Miss Ellen. That person told you right. So just say, for example, on $100. If somebody gives Philip Grove $100 through Givelify, Philip Grove actually only gets $96.20. Yeah. So, um, so let's just say 3%. So that's $97. Okay, that's $97 plus 30 cents. So 30 from 97, that's so we get 96.70. So for every $100 that you give, Philip Grove gets $96.70. Now, during the pandemic, there were some churches who wouldn't go to that because they didn't like that. But here's why we did it. First, it was a great demand for it. We had a lot of members asking for it. And then we did it for convenience for people. The way that I explained it to the officers is just like many of the stores, it's just the cost of doing business. I would rather get that $97.70 than to get nothing. That's just me. I would, if you're gonna pay through Givelify, and if you are disciplined to say I'm gonna give it on my payday, or I take that gamble of you holding on to it and bringing it Sunday, I'd rather you give it to me on payday. Not me, give it to the church on payday. I'll take that $96.70. Yeah, I don't use it either. I don't use it either because of that. Out of town, yep. Yep. I've used it maybe 2 times. Right, that's what I do most of the time, Thelma. When I come back, then I'll double up from the week before. But Miss Ellen, I don't want you to, that's just the cost of doing business. If that's easier for you and it makes it easier for you, then she finna order some checks. Cause see, like I got a sister who doesn't got a checking account but no checks. She don't write checks. My sister like that. She a debit card person. Yeah, she doesn't write checks. But and so like I said, that's just one of those things that I think most pastors and most churches just kind of went to where they said, but see, like the tax commissioner, which is the county, says we're gonna pass that cost directly on to you. My dry cleaners, when you go to the cleaners, they tell you $2 to use your debit card. Whatever your bill is, add $2 to it if you use your debit card. So I usually try to go to the ATM and get, get the money out because I don't want to pay that $2. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Some of them, like I was explaining to them, one of the charities that I support is, I don't know if y'all ever heard of Compass for Hope in Augusta. And so one of the things that Compass for Hope does in Augusta is they have mobile showers that they take around to like homeless encampments, and they set them up one Saturday, and they let the homeless people, they can come take showers and, use private bathroom and, just clean themselves up. And then now they've added on mobile washing machine stations where they go around and the people can wash their clothes. Yeah, yeah, and they let them wash their clothes. And they'll go to places where you find a large concentration of homeless people. So when I give to them, they have an option. I've never seen this on Givelify, but Compass for Hope, whatever processor they use, it asks you, do you want to cover the fee? So like if you giving them $200 and the fee is $3.95, you can say give $203.95, cover it so that they get the whole $200. Um, but I hadn't seen that option on Givelify. Now there are a lot of church electronic giving software that are out there, Tidely, There are a couple of other ones. Flocknote has one now that they use, and some of them may give you the option of being able to cover the fee. I know, like a lot of political campaigns, if you give in, they'll ask you, do you want to cover the fee so all of the money goes to your candidate, or like on a what you call them things, people when they in trouble, they GoFundMe. Yeah, GoFundMe usually gives you that option too, but Givelify doesn't offer that option. But Givelify is pretty, 2.9% plus 30 cents. I know that sound. I had some churches when I talked, they called, hey, let me ask you about this, and I told them that it was a non-starter for them. I'm like, okay, it worked good for us. Because actually, we had members actually asking for that before the pandemic. Yeah, we had some members asking for that before the pandemic. But, so that is a nugget for y'all to know. Yeah, that is correct. When you use Givelify, the church doesn't get all of what you give through Givelify. Well, yes, it is, because you gave it to, you gave it as your tithe. That's a cost, right, that's a cost that the church incurs. So, but yeah. But Miss Ellen, don't let that keep you up at night. Miss Will, tell what I said. Don't let her, yeah, she looking worried over here. Don't let that keep you up at night. No, they were telling you the truth, yeah. Huh? You can't do nothing with her. Don't let that keep you up at night. Don't let that keep you up at night, like I said. You say, what's wrong, man? Well, that's what you said. What's wrong, baby? And if she tell you, say, Pastor told you don't worry about that. Pastor told you don't worry about that. So, because you purposed in your heart. And that's what Paul teaches us, the purpose in our heart. Things change, The world moves, and part of it, we got to move with it. And if electronic giving, because that allows people who ain't even here. Sometimes I get email from Givelify, somebody that ain't even in Augusta, send through Givelify. Because when they go on our website, they can see it's right on the website. And so somebody in Washington State, if they pull up Philip Grove Baptist Church, they can hit that button, and it'll send it from there. So, yeah. So, but the key is purpose in your heart. Purpose in your heart. Okay? Listen to this. You must not only must you must purpose for yourself. The preacher nor the elders can decide for you what you're going to give. You must purpose in your heart yourself. That's why Paul says, not grudgingly nor of necessity. When I do that, I'm actually trying to teach you. I'm not trying to dig in your pocket. I'm trying to teach you. I'm telling you what the Word of God says, and then sometimes if I'm speaking of my own accord, I'm just trying to get you to see it in another way, okay? I'm just trying to get you to see it in another way, because some people can't see it in the way that it may be presented in this Word. That's why it's always so important to interpret God's Word correctly, and also why it's so important to try to explain and to teach God's Word in a way that people can understand it, that they can put it into their life, okay? But like Paul says, not grudgingly or of necessity, because God loves a cheerful giver. Preacher shouldn't have to pull your pocket. The deacon shouldn't have to pull your pocket. If there's a financial appeal, whoever's doing the appeal should not have to pull it. You should do it from your own heart, from what you have purposed, okay? Acts 11 and 29, y'all don't have to turn there, just write that down. Here's a note from there. Each person, according to his ability, determines what he will give. Giving should not be done lightly. Giving should never be an afterthought. It should not be done lightly, should not be done lightly. Some people give more thought to buying a new pair of shoes than they do how much they will give to the church. Some people give more thought to buying a new pair of shoes than to what they will give to the church. That's something when you think about that. And but you know what? It's the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth. Ooh, I can remember my son. He's a sneakerhead. And I can remember him standing in line to get a ticket to buy some shoes. You stand in line to get a ticket to be able to buy the shoes. And then the shoes were, out of this world. And depending on how popular the shoe was, if you got a ticket, there were people offering you money to buy your ticket. Can y'all believe that? That blew my mind. Because y'all talking to the one who was there when Jordan first came out. Jordan 1s. And I'm like, wait a minute. So now y'all buy tickets to buy them ones that we was buying in 1985? Well, I didn't. Mama couldn't afford them because they were $95. Now in 1985, $95 was a lot of money. Then they went up to $105. Did you know that, D? Jordan 1s was $95. You don't believe that? Yeah, see, he can't believe that. Because how much they cost now? Easy. And then, if they've been taken well care of, there are stores that sell there are stores that you can go into if you got a pair that and they'll look at it like a used car. Yeah, that one got a little scratch on it there. I give you this much for them. And then they turn around and sell them. Yeah. So this lesson, I know that there are people, and I used to have to stay on him, because he had a little job. He had his own little job. He was working. And so, but I used to have to say on him, well, how much you give to the Lord? And you don't put all that thought. You done stood in line to get a ticket for the chance to buy these shoes, and then we get to church on Sunday, and you ain't got no money. Yeah, but but he going to school Monday. He gonna be tight Monday. Hey, what's funny? Yeah, right. What's funny? The Lord had to show him too. You don't do right. I'm gonna get it. So the Lord had to show him too. But there are some people who give more thought to a lot of other things than they do to how much they're going to give to the church. Remember, the church has many important works that it needs money to accomplish. What is the greatest need that the church has that it needs to accomplish? Say it loud. You got it. I just need you to say it loud for all of them to hear. Go ahead, Elena. You had it. I heard you. You got it. Yeah, go ahead. Saving souls. Our eternal destiny depends on what the church does. Depends on what the church does. And so it's important for us to remember one of the greatest works, the greatest work that the church needs money to fulfill. Well, why the church need money to fulfill that? Well, didn't Paul say in Romans that how will they hear if they don't have a preacher? Didn't he? That's one example. How many of y'all would come if ain't no air conditioning this Sunday? How many folks y'all think? Now, some of y'all might come. I believe some of y'all would. Y'all come in here with the fans. I believe some of y'all would. I might be asking the wrong crowd. I might need to ask that question on Sunday during service. How many of y'all be back next week if we kill the power and cut the air conditioner off? Huh? Boy, you talk. This probably how our Sunday service will look right here. This is how Sunday service will look right here. How you looking now? This how it'll look. Yeah. This how Sunday service will look if I say ain't no air conditioning this Sunday. But actually, more important than the power being on is us saving souls. Us saving souls. Gotta have insurance. Go live, yeah. You ain't got no air conditioning. Yeah, Pastor, y'all ain't got no air down there. Can y'all just stream the service? So it's all right for your power to be at home. It's all right for the power to be on in your house, but not the lower house. Yeah, we don't those are things we don't look at oftentimes. Lesson says, study your Bible. Meditate on the principles that we are studying. Analyze your own prosperity and your ability, then decide how much to give. That's what purpose is about. That's what purposing in your heart is about. Many need to consider more carefully the amount they give compared to their prosperity. Many need to consider more carefully the amount that they are giving compared to their prosperity. Okay? Listen to this. And this is why this is so important for y'all to learn. We're about to wrap it up. The Christian who understands the principles that are clearly taught in the New Testament will understand that stewardship is a matter of wholehearted generosity and responsibility to God. A Christian who understands the principles that are taught in the New Testament will understand stewardship as a matter of wholehearted generosity and responsibility to God. In other words, you'll say to yourself, I have a responsibility to steward what God gave me. I got a responsibility to steward what God gave me. David Jeremiah contrasts those two. In the Old Testament, God's people were told to give specifically. In the New Testament, this principle goes beyond that to giving sacrificially. The word sacrifice gets its meaning from the Latin word sacra, which means sacred. So when you give, you're not just giving. That's a sacred gift. That's a sacred gift. That's not giving like giving to a charity. Okay? When you give, you bring to the church, that is a sacred gift. That's a sacred gift. Sacrum, which means sacred, and physio, which means to make. So the word literally means to make sacred or to make holy. In other words, we ought to devote something to God. We ought to devote something to God. In the Old Testament, we gave by and according to the law. In the New Testament, our giving ought to be motivated by our love. In the Old Testament, giving has an obligation as at the center. In the New Testament, giving has others at the center. Old Testament giving was by percentage. In the New Testament, is given by proportion. In other words, the law said, give according to percentage. Jesus says you give as you've been prospered. Out of proportion. In the Old Testament, giving was a responsibility. In the New Testament, giving is a response to what Jesus has done. All right. All right. Yes. Out of proportion. By proportion. Mm-hmm. So it's tithes and offerings. See, oftentimes, and a lot of people, and like I said, I've had this conversation with people. They'll say, well, Jesus never taught. Well, yes, he did. Let me ask y'all something. Did anybody have to tell y'all to brush your teeth this morning? Brush your teeth. Right, so you when you smell that, you automatically know I got to do that. And so oftentimes, and a lot of times when you go and look, and a lot of people bring up when Jesus was talking to the Pharisees and he says you tithe to the deal of the mint, deal and the deal and the mint you give a tithe of. You so specific about making sure your 10% is there, but you've forgotten the more weightier matters of the law. So he wasn't doing away with it. He was saying, yeah, that's good what y'all doing, but what about love? What about mercy? What about those other things? Yeah, you do that. And then Paul comes back later on and says, give as God has prospered you. Because the issue was some people were holding on to that, and God had prospered them much more than they were actually giving. The minimum. The minimum. Mm-hmm. And that's what I always explain, and this is how I like to explain it and look at it. Tithing is the minimum. That's the floor. That's where we start. What God is saying is when I bless you abundantly, why should you turn your lip up if we say we're taking up an offering for Deacon Gibson, his house was burned down? That's what I get to the church for. Okay, but God is, why, and I'm throwing this out, why we got to twist your arm about the building fund? Why? I pay my tithes, yeah, but that ain't, you've been blessed above that. You've been blessed above that. And so that's what the New Testament teaches. And like the lesson says, once you understand that in the context of my giving is a response to the love I've received, then it won't be an issue. Like you said, Christians who understand these principles understand that stewardship is a part of it. When you understand those principles. Y'all, I've never gone without in doing right by God. I never have. Now, I've gone without when I was trying to handle it on my own, and I wasn't doing right by God.